Welcome back. Today in our Sunday Spotlight, Connecticut Secretary of the State, Stephanie Thomas. She joins me for the first time in Studio A, and we're talking about some of the voting proposals before the legislature this session. Madam Secretary, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about first the presidential primary because something kind of remarkable happened. The chair people of the Democratic and Republican parties from Connecticut sat shoulder to shoulder and testified in unison. And Ben Proto from the GOP said, we talk more than you all think, but to have that kind of optics is probably good in today's culture. So tell us about what's happening with the presidential primary.
Sure. I think it's a great example of why it's important to talk to everyone across the aisle, because they're trying to unite and do something good for Connecticut, which is give voters an opportunity to weigh in on the presidential contest earlier than we typically can. So it would move the date of the presidential primary from the last Tuesday in August to the first Tuesday in August. I'm sorry, did I say August? April.
I got you.
First Tuesday in April. And because we would align with nearby states, we also get extra delegates. So more representation for all of Connecticut.
Now, we do oftentimes see candidates swing through, but it's because we got cash.
Yes.
This would maybe give them an incentive also to come and talk to voters, because if it had been the normal date, it would be April 30th, so we'd be late in the game.
Exactly. The earlier, the better, in my opinion.
And so maybe put Connecticut a little bit more on the map as people decide in 24.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. The other big topic on voting is early voting.
Yes.
So many other states do it. I know when Denise Merrill, your predecessor, was here, she was so in favor of following something.
Yes.
What are we looking at? What can people expect and when?
So early voting, as you know, 60% of voters said, yes, it's about time for Connecticut to have early voting. So the legislature, to their credit, got to work and put a few bills together very early in the session, passed out of committee. So now we're just waiting for it to be called. We're looking at 14 days or 10 days. And there's lots of other details, but from all accounts, everyone I've spoken with feel that we have a workable plan and great access for the voters of Connecticut.
People, the land of steady habits, we're all used to doing things the way we do them, Secretary Thomas. So if this happens, one of them's likely to happen, what can people expect? So it'll just be a time period when you can show up, you still go to your school or firehouse or whatever?
Not your school. Most likely one location per town, and the hours would be basically business hours, some early mornings, some late nights, but most importantly, weekends, which I think will really help a lot of people. And, you know, I've been surprised how even election workers, the legislature, everyone has been united in how important they think early voting is. And we all just say the same thing. Let's just make sure it's fully funded so the costs aren't pushed off on municipalities. And if that's done, I think everyone will be really excited.
I know one of the big things then is implementing it and the logistics. So we know it's not going to be ready in time for the next election cycle.
Correct. And part of that has to do with the third-party vendor. Most people don't realize we have to build out the electronic infrastructure to make sure election security is adhered to, so that we know that someone has early voted versus absentee voted or showed up on election day. And there's just not enough time for that vendor to build that system for 2023. So we can look forward, assuming a bill gets passed before June, to having early voting in 2024.
And we always get those big turnouts in the presidential cycle, so it'll be a good test for it.
Yes.
You mentioned election security, and maybe only because of fringe news reports, but election security continues to be in the news, right? Are we secure? Are we safe? Is anyone logging into the machines and changing votes? I mean, what do you want to tell voters who might be concerned?
We are 100% secure. What's funny is a lot of states have newer tabulators than we do, and they don't have paper backups, so people could theoretically log in and hack a system. Our machines aren't connected to any electronics, and we also have a paper backup system or a paper ballot system in Connecticut, and we always will, I suspect. So we do need new tabulators, but security is not an issue.
So nobody could hack in because it's not connected to anything?
No. Think about technology 17 years ago. That's where we are.
I want to ask you about another big push for your office, and that's civic engagement.
Yes.
Tell me what you've been doing and why it's so important.
Oh, so important. Most people don't know how to interact with government, whether it's, there's a pothole on my street, or I would like to get more money into my child's school. So we are really trying to teach people what branches of government solve which problems and how they can interact. So we've been traveling around doing, I've been going to barber shops. I cut my hair every 2 weeks. And because those are community gathering places where all types of people get together and talk about issues of the day. So we've been connecting to find out how they feel about government, how they feel about voting, and just try to educate people one town at a time.
It's important stuff. People may know you from your campaign ads. You're newly elected as Secretary of the State. Tell us a little bit about Stephanie Thomas.
Oh, gosh, Stephanie Thomas. Before I ran for secretary, I was a state representative. But before that, I spent my entire career in the nonprofit fundraising space, so helping to raise millions of dollars for a lot of charities. And before that, I was a poor girl from New Jersey, grew up in a great town, so I got a great education. But, maybe I did my homework by candlelight because we had no electricity. So a very interesting, eclectic background, but I'm really excited to be secretary, and I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time.
Only about 30 seconds left, but your office touches business filings, it touches elections, it touches civics, like you said. As you're getting your feet under you in that job, I mean, a lot of people in the state may not know it, but they interact with your office.
Yes, they do. And we've talked about elections, but I'm also focused on the business community. Rolled out a new newsletter starting last month, collecting information about trainings, grant programs, etc., so I can deliver it straight into business owners' boxes. All
right, something else good that we learned. Thank you for being with us, Secretary of the State. Stephanie Thomas, thank you for being here on CT23.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you back.
Thank you.
That is CT23 for this week. CBS Sunday Morning is coming up next. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll, of course, meet you back here in Studio A next Sunday morning.